Okay, hi, how you doing? My name is Sarah and I like to talk about books in my basement, and today we are confused. I am. Figured I would talk to y'all about some of the books I read recently while I set up my new cross stitch projects. I like to have a project going at all times, and I recently finished my giant puzzle that I have been working on. So my next project is some bookmarks, some cross-stitch Lord of the Rings bookmarks. Now these are actually like printed images on here, which normally I just do a like blank Ada and count where everything goes because that's how I was taught. But this, I'll be honest, just looks easier, and these are really cute. So my mom bought these for me off Amazon for Christmas, and I just hadn't got to them yet, so I was going to make at least one or two of them. And I thought I would start them today while I chat to y'all, because if there's one thing that I don't like, it's not having things to do with my hands. So I'm going to be right back in a minute and make a stack of books so you can see what I'm talking about as I talk about it. We're just going to go through some of the stuff I've read recently and I haven't talked about. Some stuff I may just gloss over because I'm going to be honest, I don't really feel like talking about some of this that wasn't very good. But the rest of it, I'll try to tell you what I thought. So I'll be right back with the stack. It's a stack. I was hoping to be able to jimmy rig it so that I could keep the book propped up while I talked about it. I don't know if that's going to happen. So we're just going to start it off with sets of books as I go through, and I'm just going to kind of hold them up as I need them. I caught up on all of my physical editions of the Ice Planet Barbarians. These are all the special editions that, who's putting these out? Is it Berkeley? Yes, that Berkeley is putting out. A couple of these were rereads, so I think Mate was a reread. I had started and DNF'd Barbarian's Taming, and Barbarian's Touch was a first read for me. Quickly, I loved this one. I thought this one was sweet and adorable. I loved the hero and the heroine in it. Fantastic. Barbarian's Mate was also pretty good. I liked it. Didn't have super strong feelings about it. And Barbarian's Taming, I absolutely did not like. I really don't like the type of hero that Maddie, is that Maddie? Yeah, Maddie is. She is the type of heroine, whatever you want to say, who will sit around and complain that she is away and that is the source of all of her problems. And in her case, she says, I'm fat. And that's going to ruin her life. And you know what? She's okay with that. She's, instead of changing it or instead of learning to be okay with it, she's just going to be like, I'm fat. Everybody hates me. I'm fat. Everybody hates me. And then she just sits and she mulls on it for pages on pages. Not only that, but she was mad and upset that her sister was kidnapped. And she was throwing things at people from all accounts and screaming at people. And then she's like, they're mad at me. They're mad at me. And instead of being, a normal person and being like, I'm sorry, it was a moment of, high feelings or emotions. I got angry. She just spends a good chunk of the first part of the book just being like, they hate me because I was mad. And I didn't like it. You can't skip it either, because in the later half we get a big overall plot twist and change. I don't like Maddie. I don't mind her. What was his Roche? Was it Roshan? Or no, it was starting with an M, right? The guy who kidnapped her sister. He was fine, but I couldn't stand her. She talked and my skin crawled. Didn't like her. Not fun for me. No, not at all. Didn't like her. Let's see. Oh, yay. Let's talk about something I really did like. Hold on. Okay. So I read the End Song series. Saga Press sent these my way when I said, yeah, I'd be interested. I had actually started The Dawn Hounds previously and just didn't get to finish it because it was a library book, and they sent me an arc of the Sunforge, and these were amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Will these stand up? Will these stand up? Hey, look at that. Let's see how long that lasts. So the Dawn Hounds is great. It starts off like small scope sort of situation. We're following a cop named Yat, and she is resigned. She has been pushed to the, is that 166 or 100? She has been pushed to the night shift in her town to patrol because she was seen as, not seen as, but she has been, how should I phrase this? She's a queer woman, and she was caught at a club for queer women, and that's kind of put her on the outs with the current ruling political party. So she is working the night shift, and her partner see something they shouldn't have, and she gets caught up in with these dark forces that work for the government. They work for this ruling religion, and people die. And then there's pirates, and there's magic, and there's mushroom houses, and there's all kinds of wild and kind of crazy things. And you know what? It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. This book is like a keyhole into everything that is in the Sunforge. Now, the Sunforge takes place after the Dawn Hounds, follows a lot of the same people because we're all together. We're all kind of on this pirate ship, and they're going to a new town, a new place, and they're finding out what has happened here that's kind of wiped it out. In the same way that the other town was attempting to prevent a sort of wipeout, but catastrophe struck, and this town is destroyed. Now this one, if Dawn Hounds is the keyhole, this is the hallway opening up, right? We see all of this like lore and this history that has built up to these like slumbering gods, this war of the gods, this almost post-apocalyptic feeling situation, these timelines, these histories, and it's just, this blew my mind out of the water. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I am so angry that most people are talking about it, and genuinely, it is so good. If you want something queer, you want something with a different sort of inspiration, like a lot of people like Asian fantasies, that sort of thing. This is a Polynesian inspired fantasy, so Sasha is pulling on these Polynesian kind of folklore and myths and gods and building these cities and towns and structures and ideas out of it, and it's just phenomenal. I can't recommend this series enough. I will be talking about it at length in future shorts, posts, videos, whatever. I loved it. I tabbed the ever-loving hell out of these, if you can see that. Fantastic series. Absolutely fantastic series. Now give me a minute, because this stuff is like confusing. Why are these numbers different? So next we're going to go with next on the stack, which is Camp Damascus. Camp Damascus I read for, what was that readathon I did? It was some sort of a readathon. I can't remember now which one it was. I need scissors. Yes, I don't remember the readathon that I read that for, but it was for something. I liked it. I enjoyed the book. I thought Chuck did some interesting things, like looking at the idea of atonement and learning that perhaps some of the things that you greatly believed in, while from a good place, were not actually doing good things. So the idea in this one is that a young woman who lives in this, it sounds like a cult, sect of Christianity in like Montana or something, she finds out, or she slowly figures out, that her memory can't be trusted and that maybe she has more ties to this 100% success rate, what's the word for them, conversion camps, than she thought. And that's not good. That's not good at all. She starts to see something. There's something hunting her and haunting her. And very quickly we see that something appear and start to follow her. And she figures out it happens when she has a certain kind of thought. When she starts to think certain things, she will start to see this creature, this being. And we follow her trying to figure that out, figure out why it's happening, what her history is, what's causing it to show up, that sort of thing. Again, it's something I liked. Chuck Dingle's writing is, I've read some of his like funnier works, like his more quote unquote erotic works, just for shits and giggles before, and it's really easy, it's really readable, and this was no exception. This read actually quite a bit YA, so if you're looking for something with like a YA tone and feel to it, this would be a good pickup. I think I'm going to go with a 3-strand stitch. That 2-strand, I don't know if you can see, it looks very thin. I like a 3-strand stitch. So I'm going to pull that. But yes, this was good. Not like mind-blowing. I do like that I have it. It's something that I quite possibly will reread. And I am looking forward to reading his next book, his newest book, which is out now, called Bury Your Gaze. So that will hopefully be covered soon. Let me get this new strand off here. The only problem with having a 3-strand stitch is I don't know how much thread they allotted to me. I wonder if that's the DMC color there. Those look like DMC colors, and if that's the case, we're good. Yoke of the Stars. This is another Saga Press title, and if you've been around for a while, or if you're new, I'll tell you anyway. I love R.B. Lindbergh. They are a poet who is writing a series of novels set in the place called the Birdverse, which is a fantasy world they've created. And each book kind of tackles a theme or has a certain tone to it, and I adore these books. I read the first Birdverse book, was it last year I read it? And that was The Four Profound Weaves. That is still to date my favorite. The Unbalancing is probably my second favorite. It's also the second book. And then Yoke of Stars was very good. Yoke of Stars is a bit of a darker, I think, story. The Unbalancing is pretty dark, but Yoke of Stars is a little bit darker. Yoke of Stars follows 2 young women who are speaking with each other. One is an assassin who works by contract, and she is awaiting her first contract so she can go out and complete her assassin's like ranking, jobbing, whatever, to make her a full-fledged assassin. She is approached. A young woman comes to her little enclave who wants to tell her a story. She's not quite sure who she wants to kill, so they start to swap stories. And it's basically, to put it in a not nice way, trauma swapping. We're looking at both women's dark histories. One is so it's been a month since I've read it. Let me see if I can remember. Stone Orphan, our assassin. She is from a race of water-dwelling creatures. They're very described almost fish or frog-like with the way their eyes are and their skin. She has to be near water at all times. And Yulin, the young woman who is there to possibly get a contract, is a survivor of a abusive relationship. We'll call it an abusive relationship because I think that's a good way to call it. And she's kind of cast out of her home because of that. They both have very intense ties with trauma and ties to family and water. They both love and struggle with language, and that's kind of the themes we're looking at here. Themes of language, what a word or a title may mean to you, and how do you put words to things that have happened and what makes you. It's a very interesting story. Like I said, it's not my favorite Birdverse book. I still absolutely loved it. But like, that's not saying much as far as not my favorite. I love the Birdverse books. I think they're absolutely stunning. I love this world. This world is so rich and well drawn and just beautiful, and R.B. Lindbergh's writing is stunning. I highly recommend this if you're looking for something queer normative and beautiful. This is a series you need to pick up. They're all small books, so they can be considered novellas. I really enjoyed this, but I don't know if it hit quite the same for me as Four Profound Weaves or The Unbalancing, but it is fantastic. And if you're looking for those kind of themes of like language and what do words mean and being lost in translation and feeling like a fish out of water, to put kind of the nail on the head, this is a great one to give a shot. I'm keeping these books for a reread because they're the type of things that really would benefit from rereads. So I loved this. This is a auto by author for me. So let's see, what have we got? Let's talk about some manga. And then we'll go to some of this other stuff. Okay, so manga really quickly. Go Loser Ranger! Rude. Are you gonna play nice? Go Loser Ranger. Okay. continues to be a fantastic series. I can't really say too much about it at this point. This is volume 3 without spoiling it. What I can tell you is that this is still within season 1 of the anime. So if you're watching the anime or have interest in the anime, you could alternately watch the anime. But Go Go Loser Ranger is kind of a spoof on Power Rangers, in which the Power Rangers in this world, the Dragon Riders or something like that, I can't even remember now. I can never remember the name of them. The Ranger Force defeated the leaders of the attacking forces that were trying to attack Earth many moons ago, and they have kind of they're continually fighting back the monster forces every Sunday at an exactly scheduled time in an exact arena for the masses. I think you get what I'm stepping in, right? You're smelling what I'm stepping in here. They have these, they're basically the putties from Power Rangers. They're the henchmen, the lowest of the low. They're just called fighters. They have them on a schedule. They're like, we won't completely destroy you if you invade once a week on this time in this place and you put up a fight and then regenerate back in your castle and stay there the rest of the week. We will leave you alone. So these poor dudes are stuck up there. And so Go Go Loser Ranger is about one of these dudes being like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not working for the Rangers. I think this is bullshit. I'm going to go kill them. And it is his like trying to infiltrate the Rangers because he has shape-shifting abilities. It is hilarious, a little dark, a little messed up. But you know what? It's fantastic. This is from the guy who wrote the quintessential quintuplets. So this is a hard jump from like a shoujo story to a shonen story, and he is doing a fantastic job. In fact, I plan on picking up the quintuplets. I think they're on the Viz app because it's this is fantastic. Almost all of these volumes. I've read 3 of them, and I think 2 of the 3 have been 5 stars. So I highly recommend it if you like manga, anything like that. Another volume 3. This must have been the month of 3s. Villains Are Destined to Die, Volume 3. I love this series. I have Volume 4 on my TBR for this month. I just have to get a book credit to buy it because I am trying to be very strict on my book buying ban. These are fantastic. This is a young woman is basically isekai'd. She goes to sleep playing her favorite dating sim game and wakes up inside the game in hard mode in the villain's body. So she has to earn affection points to try to figure out, 1, how to get back to her world, and 2, how to survive. The affection points are what's going to keep her alive if these men get so far into the red, and even like the servants in the castle. If they get so far into red that they don't like her, they'll kill her, and she doesn't know if death is death in this world. She doesn't know if she'll wake up in her own body or if she's just dead. So she's trying to survive. This series is beautiful. It has some very interesting themes and explorations going on. So one of the things that I really love that we're doing, especially in this volume, is that Penelope, our main character, our bad guy, has always been seen as just spoiled, rotten, out of control, like truly just terrible. And our main character is starting to realize there is a reason for that. There is a reason she acted the way she did, why she felt the way she did, and how she acted out. And you start to feel a real empathy and care for this character. You start to see the horrible way she was treated and how, you know, her behavior is a product of that. And it's like, ouch, man. You really going hard. You're making this character very relatable and very sympathetic. I mean, and that's with a point, right? So everyone has a history, and we're exploring that because her story is not so different from Penelope's, and it's fantastic. This ended on a very good cliffhanger, and I know that the 4th one also ends on a cliffhanger, so I'm not looking forward to that. But I am excited to read it all the same. I absolutely adore the series, and I very much recommend it. The last manga that I read was Alley by Junji Ito, another win from Junji Ito. I will love any of his short story collections because I really love his short story work. Alley is the title story, and this one is one of my favorite stories in the collection. Now these range from Alley, which is about a haunted alley with a murderous like neighbor, or to, gosh, I don't even remember at this point some of them. Oh yeah, the masks. There's one that explores the idea of like loss of privacy and what that can do to people, and that one was kind of kind of trippy, to be honest with you. I liked it. I don't actually, now that I'm talking out loud about it, don't remember a whole lot of the other stories besides Allie. There was one that really explored body horror, which I love it when he does body horror, but I can't remember the name of it. So I clearly need to reread this. I do like to reread Junji Ito's stories. Sometimes I'll just pick it up and reread a story here or there when I have a few minutes, like when my daughter's napping and stuff. So this is staying on the shelf, and I will be doing that. If you like his short story collections, this is a good one to pick up. This one you should definitely give a shot. This is one of the better ones of his short story collections. They're all about the same length too, so we don't get one of those situations like Frankenstein, where it's one big story and a bunch of little stories. Frankenstein was my least Junji Ito, frankly, ever. I don't think I will even bother to buy that one to own it, to be honest with you. But this one was good. I liked it. His stuff is usually an auto buy for me as well. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. Artwork is stunning, as always. Always stunning. Okay, so we're getting into some like, I'm trying to do all the physical stuff first, if you can't tell. And this is one of the indie books that I read, and this is Beneath the Dragon's Eye Moon by, yes, Moons. Beneath the Dragon's Eye Moons by Silky Myth. This is the story of a young girl who is reborn in a fantasy world, and she is 8, I think, when the story starts, and she is going to pick her first class and start to understand the system as it rules this world and controls and aids the people, and we are introduced to it. It's kind of like a video game system, a little bit like a lot of these are. This is considered, I believe this one's considered a lit RPG. It may also fall under progression fantasy. I would have to, I caught it. I would have to check online, but I really enjoyed this. We've got stat blocks, we've got classes, there are all kinds of different types of creatures and animals. I read this with a mix of physical, mostly ebook, because my hands were acting up when I was reading this, so it was much easier to read it on ebook. I have a kind of reoccurring chronic pain in my thumbs and wrists, so it's hard for me to hold books open when they've got a tight binding, so ebooks are usually the way to go. Recently audiobooks too, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I had a lot of fun with this. I really liked it. I am going to, come on now, mother trucker. I hate using this threader. I know it's gross, but I have always just like licked the end of the thread and stuck it through. But this is not working, so I'm going to use a threader. Anyway, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. The writing is not perfect. This is an indie book and it is a little older, but I have heard that it gets a lot better and a lot more interesting as you go forward through the series. This is also written and told first person perspective from this like this girl child's point of view. So it reads that way and it seems appropriate. It's a lot like Cinnamon Bun. When I read Cinnamon Bun, the writing fits the viewpoint, right? So I really enjoyed that, and I am going to continue the series. I have the second one checked out on Kindle Unlimited, and I will probably read that before I buy a copy, but I will be continuing what is the actual series name on this? I can't remember. I can never remember shit when I'm talking to the camera. What is the name of this? Is it it's not Azarenth Healer. You know what? The next book in the series. Okay, so we've got some big name titles in here. Let's do this one next. This one's more recent. I listened to Angel's Blood by Nalini Singh. True story, I have attempted to read this book like 4 times. And I wasn't able to read it. The reason being is I absolutely could not stand Raphael. The main hero in this story follows Ellie. She goes by Ellie, I believe, in the beginning of this. Elena. She is a guild hunter, which means she's a born hunter. She can smell vampires, and she has augmented like strength and healing capabilities. Not like super extreme, but she's a little stronger than the average human. And she hunts vampires for their overlords, the angels, which in this world create the vampires. She is hired by Raphael, the Archangel of New York, to hunt down a rogue being. And Raphael is like the most arrogant, awful type of a man. And I have tried to read this 3 times prior, I think, because I love Nalini Singh. I love her Side Changeling series. I've read almost all of those except for the newest 2. So I wanted to read The Gill Hunters because it's got the prettiest cover. Not this cover. This cover, it's questionable. The newer covers are very pretty, but I just couldn't get into this one. And I was on that live show with Heather, which if you haven't watched, I'll try to link below, and a couple other people, and they were saying, you know, it's kind of excusable when you actually read the story and pay attention to how long he's been alive, and he's pretty much in charge of America, right? Like, he's very much the angel president of America. And so, like, keeping that in mind, I went back and I tried to reread it, and I listened to it on audiobook, and it's so much better on audio. I am teaching myself to love audiobooks, and this was one of the ones that I did. I actually just finished the 2nd book in the series yesterday. If that gives you any indication. I really loved it. When I actually read it all the way through, I knew that her work would hit. I just had to give it the right chance. Her work would hit, as if I didn't already say I love something. This work would hit if I gave it a chance, and it did. And I really recommend it. It's really popular with fantasy romance fans. There's somebody coming down here. Hi, what you got? Count some? Uh-oh, cat. Thank you.
Mama?
No, thank you. I was trying to film because my table's a fucking mess.
Oh, wow.
You got her? Where's she at? I got a Cool Whip break. Okay, I'm gonna save this one for last. So let's talk about some of these other big name titles that everybody's been reading. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna talk about this one because I'm doing a video project with some books that my husband has bought me. So let's talk about these ones. Let me make my stack back up. I read the ever so hyped Lady of Darkness and the sequel, look at me, Lady of Shadows. I'll put them like this. Are they gonna stand? Heck yeah, they're gonna stand. Look at that. So Lady of Darkness, the first book in this series, is it's fine. This series follows Scarlet, and Scarlet is a assassin. She is a badass lady assassin with silver hair, you know, the huge. And she is attempting to find out who had her mother killed all those years ago. When she was a child. She had to watch it happen. She was hiding, and her mother was brutally murdered in front of her. That's fun. Gotta have some trauma. And she's been trying to figure out who killed her ever since. She is like in her 20s now. She used to, or still does, work for the Assassin Lord, and he's kind of relegated her to live in this noble's house because she pissed him off. He's kind of her father figure. Not really. He's also kind of a huge douche. And while she's living there, she meets, well, his name isn't Soren when she meets him, but Soren. And they strike up a situationship that turns into a relationship. And the two of them, the story follows them and their relationship. So in the first book, we meet her and him and start to see the very bare bones of this world and what's happening. And in the second book, she goes to another land, and we start to see all of the fairy power and melodrama you want from a fantasy romance. Like, just casual uses of power and just so much melodrama and deep feelings. And I ate it up with a spoon. I loved it. This was it's freaking bats, man. I fully intend on reading the next book. I just bought the audiobook for it today. I already have the physical copy of it upstairs on my cart. And so yeah, this series is fun. Like I said, this first book was not the best. I gave it like a high 3, maybe high 3. It was fun. It was easy to get through. It wasn't super impressive, but this book really hit. Scarlet is struggling with a lot of actual mental health issues. And I think Melissa K. Rorick really explores those really well. She writes about them with such a way that it's relatable, but it wasn't too deeply triggering. Like, there's a lot of depression and a lot of getting trapped in these thought spirals and losing yourself to these dark feelings. And it's just like, wow, she does a good job. And I know that this series is completed, and the series she's currently working on, which starts with Reign of Shadows and Endings, is not finished, but I think the third book just came out, but it's a lot darker almost. So I'm gonna read it, but I'm a little nervous because even in this one where she, just starting everything, it's a lot, and I appreciate what she says and how she says it, and the romance is pretty swoony. I'm not gonna lie, I really like the romance. I don't normally get hooked on fantasy romances, but I like this one. And finally, let's put these down. My favorite book probably of the past 2 months. Can you see it? Can you see it with my ring light going on? Dungeon Crawler Carl. Gosh, so fucking good. This is not for people who don't like funny books. I'm just gonna throw it out there. If you don't like funny books, thanks for watching. See you later. This book is hysterical. Dungeon Crawler Carl is about Carl, and Carl is outside in his underwear trying to catch his ex-girlfriend's cat who has leapt out the window and is currently like running off down the street, right? As he's like chasing down Donut, the cat, everything around him is flattened. It disappears. It's just rubble. Everyone in it is destroyed. They're killed. And he's left standing there again in his underwear with a cat, very confused. So the apocalypse has arrived on Earth. A message is broadcasted to the survivors, and it's like, hello, here's what's happening. You have to go into the dungeon. There are entrances all over the world. You are now being televised to the whole universe, and you have a chance to survive and win or die in the dungeon, or die on the surface when we purge the surface in so many hours. So of course he takes the cat into the dungeon to attempt to survive, and thus begins his career as a dungeon crawler. The dungeon is run and operated by a huge corporation in the galaxy. Now, there is a lot of politics that's hinted at in the first book, and I'm reading the second book, and we're starting to get more and more and more of that. And so you see some of that in this book, but what you see mainly is Carl coming to grips with his new reality, right? He's trapped in these dungeon-like levels with Donut, who is a talking character later on. She gets a stat boost, some things happen, and she also becomes a crawler. She is the perfect cat. I would worship at Princess Donut's feet. She is my princess. And they are just trying to survive at this point. I don't know if I think he's going to make it all the way. I hope he is, but maybe not. There are options, right? So there is the whole, you can reach the 18th floor and win, but no one has ever done that. Or you can survive long enough to be offered a job, or to be offered to be sponsored by these companies. And we haven't fully explored what that means and that sort of thing, but people are watching them try to survive in this dungeon because it's televised. As it says here, the apocalypse will be televised. And it's so funny. It's hysterical. Matt Dinniman is so funny from the beginning. Like, it's so good. One of my favorite examples is that because this dungeon is on Earth, they're using Earth lingo and things and like situations and stereotypes. They're using the worst kind and then making them even more worse because, they just wiped out this freaking world. So they're trying to make themselves look good. Oh, look at these poor, terrible Earthlings. We saved them from their denigration. Here is one example of how they're terrible. Their llamas are on meth. Things like that, right? There is a mob called the Krakaren. It is a Kraken who is also a Karen who runs an MLM. It's a boss. It's hilarious. So like things like that, right? So the llama's on meth, you've got goblins, you got all those things. And there's an AI that runs the dungeon that has a foot fetish. I could go on and on about Dungeon Crawler Carl. I really could. I am in love with it right now. I have the e-arc of the first 3 books at this point of the first book from, I believe it's Ace Books, because they are reprinting these in very nice hardcovers with an extra story at the end that kind of is going to build to something. So if you're looking for this book in physical format, just wait like I think a month. I think the first book comes out either at the end of this month or the end of next month. It comes with that extra content. Otherwise, you can read this on KU and audiobook. I highly recommend the audiobook if you want to go the audio route. The guy who voices Carl the whole book sounds like Patrick Warburton. Cusco from, not Cusco, what's his name? The dumb one. Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. Imagine that in this situation. It's so good. I gotta go listen to it when I'm done with this. I have to make my daughter pasta and I'm gonna listen to the second book while I do that. I can't. Best book of last month. This is gonna be in some of my best books of the year. Dungeon Crawler Carl. Don't miss out on Dungeon Crawler Carl. Oh my god. So good. Oh, and before I forget, hold on. I want to remind y'all, I read an arc for this indie book earlier in the year and the release got pushed back. No, my bookmark. Time Marked Warlock by Shami Stovall comes out next week on the 20th. I don't know if this video is going to go up before or after then. If it comes out after, pick up a copy. If it comes out before, pre-order it. She is an absolute delight. I love her desperately. I don't know if it was on accident on purpose, but she sent me 2 copies of it, physical format. This cover is drawn by the guy who does the Jim Butcher covers for the Dresden Files, and this is a great indie book. I just really wanted to give it another shout out. This is about a man who, he's a warlock, and he can basically reset time. As long as he has made a mark, which looks like that, on people or objects, he can reset time and go back and redo things. She has pitched it as Groundhog Day meets the Dresden Files, and that is accurate and it is very good. We explore a lot of grief, but we also have a lot of humor. There is a mischief spirit in there. That's our little pigeon flying back here. It's a young girl looking for help. Her parents were murdered / kidnapped, and our main character is doing that. So love this. I talked about it, like I said, a few months ago. I just want to remind everybody, it is coming out soon. Please give it a try. It's on KU, I believe, and she has I think a full cast or a really nice audiobook coming out. Either way, I have the audiobook pre-ordered. That's how much I liked it. So my husband could listen to it and I could listen to it again. That's all the physical books. Let's talk real quickly about some other books. So one physical book I read that I don't have anymore because it's a library book was Dogland by Tommy Tomlinson, and this is just a look at it's a nonfiction book about the Westminster Dog Show. I love dogs. I love animals. I was that kid who would read the animal guides out of the library in middle school and elementary school. So that was me. So this is right up my street, and this just explores the history of the Westminster Dog Show and the people who currently take part in it. This is like a super surface level history and exploration of it, but it's done with a lot of, I feel like, heart and love. I think he was very attentive. I think he did a good job. He wasn't mocking anyone. He was genuinely paying attention and wanting to learn. And I liked it. I had a lot of fun. If you like dogs and dog shows, maybe give it a shot, see what you think. As someone, again, who does not have a dog, womp womp, but wants one, and is not in that world, I thought this was a really nice exploration of it. Arc that I read, I'm going backwards in my journal here. A 5-star arc I read was Laozi's Dao De Jing. I can't speak Chinese, so I know I'm saying that wrong. Ken Liu is doing the new translation on this, and this is an old Chinese text that explores like a way of life, a philosophy of life, of basically, to me, it was go with the flow almost, right? Just a way to remember to go with the flow and accept and realize that, you know, you don't really know everything. You don't know all things. You haven't experienced all things, and to just accept that and be like, okay. Like, this is, to me, reads almost like the ultimate, like, surfer dude kind of thing. Like, just be chill. And I enjoyed it. It's going to need some rereads for me to properly explain it and talk about it, because I'm not that smart. but I am going to get a copy of it next week and definitely reread and annotate it. So I really recommend it. If you like Ken Liu, he also includes some essays, and I really enjoyed those. They really helped to bring some of it to life. He, what's the word I want? He quoted other sources, contemporaries of Lao Tzu, I think is how you might say that name. So yes, a great little like philosophy book. It's very tiny. I read it in a couple of hours, so it's something you can pick up. I think it's less than 200 pages, so if you're interested, give it a shot. I also read Second Tides the Charm by Chandra Bloomberg, which is a a romance about two shark researchers and their second chance romance. I was really excited about this. I genuinely was, but there was like, this book was like 10% sharks and 90% pages upon pages of these two just talking about how they were awkward with this person that they used to be in a relationship with. And it wasn't even that they broke up, they just fell apart because of the situations in their lives, and it didn't work great for me. I gave it 3. It wasn't terrible, but it was just I'm not even joking when I tell you, we're in these two heads and it's just pages and pages of them thinking to themselves about how awkward it is and how much they love them, but they missed out on their chance, and the other person will never feel the same way, and then we'll switch a chapter and the other person's feeling the same way. It's just that over and over and over again, like the angst. It wasn't even like meaningful angst after a while. It was just like, bless you, please just talk to each other kind of things. Another arc that didn't quite hit for me was Mask of Flies by Matthew Lyons. This one did the thing where it's like spooks right out the gate almost, and I kind of lost interest. So this is about a bank robber. We meet her right as the robbery goes wrong, and she ends up taking a wounded co-conspirator and a cop held hostage to her old family cabin where terrible things happened in her past. I don't know why you would have gone back there, boo. The whole time I'm like, why did you do that? But she did, and we find out her ties to this freaky cult. Another like cult out in the like Montana or wilderness somewhere, Christian pseudo cult, and the thing that hunts her. And like, yeah, so it opens with spooky, and then we go to her in modern day, and very quickly we are reintroduced to spooky, and it felt episodic, and that made it feel long, and I just wasn't a big fan. So I mean, it was okay. I can see how readers who would enjoy a longer kind of drawn out horror, and they're there for more of the culty bits, maybe might like it, but for me it just wasn't perfect. I love the cover though. Like, look at that freaking cover. It's so gross and awesome. I also really enjoyed the Dead Cattail Assassins by not Django Wexler, Lord help me, Peter Jelly Clark. P. Jelly Clark? I need to look that up. I know I messed it up the last time I talked about one of his books, but I'm a little distracted right now. Look, I got some work done on that. Can you see it? Anyway, The Cattail Assassins is about assassins who are neither cats nor have tails, but they are dead. It's a woman named Aveen, and she is asked to go complete a contract. Well, she goes to complete the contract, but she can't, because when she gets there, the contract, it turns out, is someone that sparks a memory in her. And her contract's nothing. No one should spark a memory in her, because she is undead. She has sold her life into servitude to the goddess of assassins and baking. It's a great combination. Cooking, rather. I think it's just cooking. Whatever. You get the idea. In exchange for a second life, but she has no memory of her former life. She died and she was offered this opportunity, and she took it to come back to life. She does assassinations now. She gets there, like I said, her target sparks a memory in her, which should have been impossible, so she doesn't go through with the kill. Instead, she tries to figure out what is going on, why this is happening. This really puts his sense of humor on full display, and I actually really loved it. He made a reason, and a good reason, to use the term edgelord in this. There are people who are called edgelords, and it's not to be funny, it's fully serious, which is so... It was good. I laughed out loud. The last three-quarter of this also introduces a dialect that I love to read. Made me very happy to see, and yeah, this was just a lot of fun. I will eventually try to get my own copy of it because I did enjoy it so much. I tend to like enjoy his works pretty much every time I read them, so I don't know why I didn't pre-order it, but it's okay. Highly recommend. It's a novella. Pick it up. Another one that I super loved, but when I pre-ordered it, I stupidly pre-ordered the ebook and not the physical book, is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Anybody who's been here knows I love T. Kingfisher. Fantastic, like, Regency fantasy about a young girl who's 14. Her mother is a sorceress, and her mother is doing some not nice things, and she has to wrench off her mother's control of her and stop her from hurting more people. I will say this was also extremely hard for me to read, especially at the beginning, because Cordelia's mother is abusive, and not in like a light touch, like it's very clear and obvious and heavy, like super abusive. And wow, it was rough. Borderline upsetting and triggering, but it was good, fantastic. I loved how it ended and everything, so T. Kingfisher is always a win for me. My camera says I've been talking to you for almost an hour. No wonder I'm hot and sweaty. Sitting under a light. I'm trying to look and see. There are definitely some other books that I have read that I should talk about, but nothing super sticks out to me right now. I will definitely follow up with you guys in another video if I remember anything that I'm missing. But let me know what you've been reading. If you follow me on Instagram and I've posted about something and you want to know more information, hit me up down below or on Instagram. I will follow up with you. I am currently reading, I think I've already mentioned, I'm currently reading the second Dungeon Crawler Carl. I just finished the second Guild Hunter book. I'm also reading Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons, and I'm loving that. I didn't think I would, but I am. And quite a few other things, so I should be back hopefully soon. And hopefully I'll have some more short form content coming up as well. But that is it. I'm going to end this very long video that I may break into two. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Let me know what you're reading, anything down below. And I'll see you again soon. Maybe with some progress on these. Talk to you later, y'all.